Now this is podgazing.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Podgazer podcast. I'm your host, Star Wars Gazer. I am joined by my friend, host of the Diamond Badge PML podcast. Is it Mariana? Sorry.
Mariana, yes.
Mariana, how are you today?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for inviting me on your show, and I'm just so excited to be here, to be with your audience, and to chat all things Star Wars and about my podcast. And I'm super excited. I was so looking forward to it this week.
Yes, absolutely. I appreciate you being on. I know it's kind of a random message. I think I saw you like commenting on one of the chats for something. I can't remember what it was, and I was like, "Oh, she like I like reaching out to people to have them be on my podcast." There's my little guy. What's up, dude?
Hi. He's so cute.
No, I'll come get you, bud. All right.
They're so cute, by the way.
Right. Thank you. Appreciate it. And he knows it too, and he likes to try and use it. But yeah, so tell us a little bit about your podcast, what you mainly do on your podcast, and where people can find you.
Sure. So I actually launched my podcast, believe it or not, almost a year. I think, almost a year ago. It's coming up on, I think, March 26th or 27th, whatever is branded as World Theater Day, because that was the day I launched my podcast or announced it. It's called the Diamond Badge PML Podcast. I basically talk all things up. Pokemon, musical theater, nostalgia, all that kind of stuff that, a lot of us really miss from our childhoods. And specifically the topic of my podcast, it talks about a unknown stage production that Pokemon, under the banner of the company 4Kids. If you guys don't know, 4Kids was the company that owned the rights to Pokemon in the late 90s to the early 2000s, when Pokemon was like exploding all over the world in popularity. You probably grew up in that era, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, so you're familiar with the Pokemon, with the Nintendo DSs. You remember
Oh,
cards. You saw the movie probably when it came out in theaters.
Yeah.
You saw all the kids like dueling the cards in the schoolyard, and everyone buying the plush toys. People were like, "What the heck is this Pokemania?"
Right.
That era.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, so around that time when Pokemon was like in its second or third year in the US, 4Kids teamed up with Radio City Music Hall, which is the showplace of the nation in New York City. If you guys who live in the New York area, that's where the New York City Rockettes perform.
Oh, sick.
And so many amazing artists have performed from all over the country, have performed there. So yeah, it's so around that time,
cool.
in the year 2000, they launched a show which basically toured a couple cities and states all over the US from like October 2000 to like January or February 2001. And what's so interesting was like this was around the time when also Pokemon was kind of dying out a little bit in popularity, because other franchises like Digimon and Yu-Gi-Oh, you probably know about them, also picking up steam.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so what I wanted to do, and this was like a bit of a passion project I had for a while, because I'm on the autism spectrum, and growing up I had a lot of challenges communicating. I did have early intervention therapy, and I had speech and language and social skills group, and they did really help me a lot, as well as the support from my family. And when I was growing up and getting back into the Pokemon anime, I came across learning about this production when I was doing like all the research on Wikipedia. So I was so interested in learning more about the music, because I was like, oh, I remember Pokemon growing up when I was little. Now, mind you, I didn't grow up during the Pokemon mania explosion. I grew up more like in the early 2000s, when all the episodes were being rerun on Cartoon Network. I'm pretty sure you know about that too.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
So I grew up a lot during that. And so I fell out of it, got into the Disney Channel and Nickelodeon, of all those shows like That's So Raven, Zack and Cody, Hannah Montana.
Yep.
And then, of course, Nickelodeon, like Drake and Josh, Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide, iCarly, all those big
all shows. Of them. Oh, yeah. Now you're bringing back some childhood memories, man.
Yeah. So I grew up during that time. And then when I was getting back into Pokemon, like around when I was like 10 or 11, I learned about this show called Pokemon Live, And I was like, what? A
Okay.
Pokemon stage show? So then I started doing all my research and I was like, wow, this is so cool. And then that was like around the time when a lot of productions were coming on tour here to Miami. So then I was telling
Okay.
my mom, I was like, Mommy, I want to go see a stage show. So then afterward, I started to go and attend stage shows here in downtown Miami and some in Fort Lauderdale. And I was so like enamored by the process of like performing on stage. So
Okay.
then like middle school and high school roll in, and then I eventually joined the band. I start to know a lot about music, and then high school comes in. I start to join the music theater program at my school, and lo and behold, I started interacting and learning how to talk with people, because this was something I really couldn't do as a little girl. So
Okay.
then I think you could say that because of the show, it kind of helped me indirectly, gave me that push to sort of develop my personality and kind of like help me communicate better,
That's
you know.
cool.
And I'm so grateful and so happy for that. So I love musical theater. I love learning about all the shows. And then, like, as I got older, more information started coming out about the show. So then I
Yeah.
thought, there's got to be more information out there than what's already online.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? I got to do my own digging. I want to do my own research of the show. So that's when I thought, it was like around the summer or the fall of 2023 when I was like, you know what? I have an idea. Since I'm like seeing all these podcasts and all these people like digging more research about unknown shows, I was like, you know what? I want to do that myself.
Yeah.
So that's why I took initiative and decided to launch this podcast in the spring of 2024.
Sick.
So yeah, it was so fun getting to do that, and I've had a lot of great support from my family and from my friends and the people I've had a chance to interview on my show. Actually, another inspiration was actually a fellow Star Wars related podcast. You probably heard of them. They're called Rebel Force Radio, the number one
Oh
source for
yeah.
Star Wars. I've called into their show a couple of times, and I've given them my unabashed opinions about Star Wars. And I think also that process of talking on the radio and sort of interacting with them and sort of giving them my thoughts about Star Wars, specifically like the last season of the Clone Wars and the Ahsoka show and the Obi-Wan show, I was like, wow, I really enjoyed doing this. So I think,
Heck yeah.
yeah, so I was like, why don't I do something like this on my own? So they were also kind of a bit of an inspiration for
That's
that.
sweet.
And also seeing, Star Wars Theory and Josh from Den of Nerds and so many
Yep.
other Star Wars related podcasts. I don't know, Frankie Valli is like this renowned recording artist. He was a big name in like the 50s and 60s with these three other guys. It was the group was called Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, and they recorded these massive hit songs like "Beggin'." They said, "I Can't Take My Eyes Off of You," or
Oh
"One
yeah,
Night."
yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Frankie Valli sung the theme song to the movie musical Grease. Grease is the word, is the word. Yeah, that's him.
Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. So this other podcast that also was an inspiration for me, because I listened to them interviewing the people that worked on the Broadway musical, people who worked on the tour, people
Yeah.
who are big fans of Frankie Valli. So I was like, wow, since they're interviewing people that literally were there during the Broadway show, during the tours, during the regional productions, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do that with my podcast. I'm going to interview the people that were there.
Sick.
I know this sounds really crazy and maybe it might not be possible, but it doesn't hurt if you give it a try, you
No,
know?
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So then one thing led to another. I was able to talk to them. They kind of gave me like all the inspirations and all the tools that they used and like the pitch that I would make for my podcast. And what is the core, the three pillars or whatever they called it,
Yeah.
like talk about the main points. And then I kind of like planned out who I wanted to interview and like how to contact them. And, I had a lot of successes. I got a lot of people on my show. I literally dropped
Sick.
my 24th episode literally on Friday.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, nothing is impossible. Like for me, when I started this last July or August, I've always been a big Star Wars Theory fan. I followed him since 2016 when he first talked about Plagueis being, or not Plagueis, Snoke being possibly Plagueis.
Oh, yeah.
And a couple weeks ago, he was doing a live stream with Dash Star and Stupendous Wave.
Yes,
and
I
he
saw that too.
he
I
put
think
out
maybe that's where you saw me.
that might have been where I saw you.
Yeah.
And I was able to
I hopped in too. I was
Yeah.
like, hey.
And I can't believe I got on. And I'm like, this is cool. And then I was able to, I'm going to ICCC this year in Nashville.
Yeah, ICC Con.
Yes. And I was able to, I talked to Theory about ICCC and he's like, dude, I'd love to go. And so I talked to the owner, Michael, at ICCC. And I'm like, dude, he wants to go. And I was able to get them to talk, him and the Theory team. So they're able to go now. And then now we announced Roger Christian with him. And it's so cool.
Yeah.
Like nothing's impossible, man. Like nothing's
impossible.
No.
And while nothing's impossible, there's unfortunately going to be people that are going to want to knock you down. So
For sure.
best thing is just don't let it knock you down.
Yeah.
Just, and no matter how many times in your head when you start to feel like, oh my God, what am I doing? What the heck was this? Was this even a good idea? Because let me tell you, I had there were so many moments last year where I actually literally felt that. Like I was a freaking mess, just like sobbing and crying. I was like, oh my God, what have I done? Should I not have done this? Like, what am I doing? And
Anakin, what have I done?
yeah. No, but thankfully, I just like, I didn't let any of that get to me. So it's important. Just put your mind to it. You can accomplish anything. In the words of Doc Brown from Back to the Future.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. So where can people find you? What internet, Instagram or YouTube or whatever, where can they find you at?
Yeah, so you can find me mainly on Instagram. Let me pull up my Instagram handle so I give out the proper information.
And I'll put a link in the description as well on this video.
Perfect. So the Instagram handle is DiamondBadgePMLPodcast. Just that whole one word. No underscore, no crazy symbol, just that whole word together.
Sweet. Heck yeah.
Absolutely.
All right.
And you can also find the podcast only available on Spotify.
Oh, sweet. Okay. On Spotify as well. Sick. I love it.
Yeah.
So obviously we're going to talk a little Star Wars here. So I have 3 main questions to start off conversations that I like to ask everybody. First is favorite Star Wars movie.
Oh, that's a hard one. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm a prequel kid. I grew up during the prequels. I'm a massive Clone Wars fan. Heck so yeah. It was the Clone Wars that we were talking off camera, like I knew about Star Wars from my mom and dad. I watched the original VHS of the original trilogy. I saw episode 2 on DVD, episode 3 when it was on HBO. And I think I also caught episode 1 during like a big mega Star Wars movie marathon on TBS or Spike. Do you remember that channel, Spike?
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Yep.
You guys probably remember those movie marathons on Spike that I really loved. But it was officially the Clone Wars that officially kicked off my official like passion for Star Wars.
Heck yeah.
Because it was just so interesting, like this new animation and the fact that they were actually going to tell more of the story between episode 2 and 3. So that like really, really intrigued me.
Oh, but absolutely.
I will have to say, I think my favorite one, and I'm probably going to get a lot of flack for saying this, my favorite one was episode 2, Attack of the Clones.
You know what? You're not the first person that said that, and that's okay. Pop the Bounty Collector?
I've heard of him.
Okay, so that's his favorite as well. Yeah.
On Instagram.
Yeah, so that's his favorite as well. So you're not the first person to tell me that. That's cool.
Oh, that's
so what?
Good.
So was it just the nostalgia of that movie, like being like one of the first ones that you saw that makes it your favorite, or?
I think it was like the very interesting concept about learning the origins of the Clone Wars, because as we know, it was mentioned during the original trilogy when Luke was like, "You fought in the Clone Wars," and
right.
And Obi-Wan's like, "Yes, and your father too. He was the best starfighter pilot."
Right.
Friend. And that's how we all knew that's where the Clone Wars originated. And so what I loved so much was that it started the conversation of the beginning of the Clone Wars, and then Revenge of the Sith we pick up many years later. But I will have to say, when I first watched episode 2, I developed a massive crush on Hayden Christensen.
I don't think you're the only one.
Which is so funny because I've actually had the pleasure of meeting him twice in the last few years at con.
Oh, that's cool. How was that?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so the first time I met him was at Miami Beach, was at the SuperCon, which is Florida SuperCon, which is like one of the biggest conventions here in Florida. For those of you who don't know, I'm in the South Florida area. So I go there with my best friend, and this was like when everything was like still coming out of COVID. Everybody had to, everyone was wearing their masks. Everybody had to be behind plexiglasses. You guys remember all that.
Oh yeah.
So we're in his line, and I also bring, I have a drawing, because I also love drawing. I love sketching characters.
Sweet.
Yes, I like to draw them in anime form. So I kind of drew like Darth Vader / Anakin Skywalker. So I drew like a half picture of like a split image of, let's say, Anakin from Clone Wars, and then Anakin / Darth Vader from Revenge of the Sith.
Okay.
So I brought the sketch to him. He was very sweet. We had a wonderful conversation. He signed the Darth Vader portion of the drawing, and the other half, 2 years later, also at Florida SuperCon, Matt Lanter, who voiced Anakin during the Clone Wars, he signed that other half.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
It was so funny because, like, I was kind of like a little freaked out that I was standing right in front of Hayden, and I just kind of blanked out during our conversation, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so weird. I had a crush on you since I was 9. I literally said that.
Oh my goodness.
Him. And he was like, oh, well, thank you. That's very sweet of you.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
He seems very chill and down to earth. I have a couple of friends who've met him quite a few times, and they're like, dude, he is so chill. Like,
he is. He was very, very, very sweet, and he was very gracious. And then afterward, we took a picture, and we kind of like posed like how, how Rey and Kylo Ren were like touching with their hands. And even though it was behind plexiglass, I was like, let's do like how Kylo Ren and Rey did it, and we did it. So that was pretty fun.
Sweet.
Then 2 years later, I see him again at MegaCon Orlando.
Okay.
And I had already gotten his autograph. That was also the convention I met Rosario Dawson, took a picture with her. She signed my drawing. Yeah, she signed my drawing of Ahsoka. And then I go up to the floor, which, by the way, during that whole situation where he was up on the floor, because he was stuck there for like 9 hours because so many people were in line to see him. They had to shut down like half the floor on the 3rd floor of the Orlando Convention Center.
Whoa.
Yeah, because there was a lot of people that were there. So it comes my turn to take a picture with him. And, they had rules, no handshakes, no hugs, blah, blah, blah. Because, I've heard all these stories about sometimes fans being a little too handsy with the actors. Some of them kind of understand boundaries. Yes. So I totally get it. So then my turn comes to take a picture with him, and I'm just like really nervous. So I just walk up to him, I'm like, hi, nice to see you. He just opens his arms and he gives me a hug, and I'm like, oh my God, I was not expecting that.
And you're like, all right, I think I can pass on in peace now. Oh, that's awesome.
So I would say that Episode 2 was indeed my favorite Star Wars movie, because that's how I kind of developed my first crush on him.
That's sweet.
I know that people have their controversial opinions about the romance between Anakin and Padme, but I liked it. I liked the romance between them.
Yeah.
I like shows like what led to Luke and Leia being born, obviously with Revenge of the Sith. You know. Yep. So I thought I really liked Episode 2, Attack of the Clones.
Attack of the Clones 2 gives us, in my opinion, one of the coolest shots in cinema, with Anakin on the bike going to find his mom. And it's got like the setting sun behind him, and he's like, just in rage mode almost. He's like on the brink of rage mode. Like, I love that shot.
And I have to be honest with you, I think that Hayden got way too much hate for his
100%.
Because he was just doing what George told him to do. Because
he nailed it.
Exactly. George was telling him to be like a very moody, very, grungy actor, kind of like, like how James Dean was.
James Dean, exactly. Yep.
I think that was the inspiration from what I heard.
Yes, 100% it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that I would say Episode 2 is my favorite movie.
Sweet. All right. How about favorite Star Wars TV show?
Oh, that's a hard one. I've got a couple that are like right next to each other. Maybe one might be a little bit below. I would say my favorite would obviously the Clone Wars.
Okay. Fair
Clone
enough.
Wars because I love the character of Ahsoka Tano. Most people don't know I'm wearing an Ahsoka Tano
Woo. Hey,
t-shirt.
Snips.
Yeah, from her universe.
I
You guys
love
who
it.
don't know, that was founded by Ashley Eckstein, who is the voice of
Yes.
Ahsoka Tano. I've also met her throughout the years. I first met her at Star Wars Weekends. She is the loveliest lady, and I love the hard work that she's doing to give back to the fans, you know?
Yeah. It's funny. I will say this real quick side story before you continue. Her last name, Eckstein. Before I knew that she was married to a baseball player who played. So I'm a big Milwaukee Brewer fan, and one of the teams that's in our division are the St. Louis Cardinals. And so
Yes.
when I saw her name for the first time, I'm like, Eckstein, why do I know that name? She goes, yeah, my husband's a player on the St. Louis. I'm like, that's where I've heard it before. Okay, that makes sense now. So it was fun.
Yeah. I've met David too. He's a really nice guy as well.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's been so fun. The last time I saw her was also at Florida SuperCon in 2023, right before the Ahsoka series premiered. And she also signed that same Ahsoka drawing that Rosario Dawson also autographed.
Oh, that's legit. That's really
Yeah,
cool.
that was
That's
really
really
cool. So I would say I love the Clone Wars because we got to see what happened between episode 2 and episode 3
Yeah.
and getting to see like all the different perspectives from
Yeah.
the Clone Wars. Like there was some told from a Jedi perspective, from a clone troopers perspective, some told from the perspective of the Separatists, some
Yeah.
told from some of the dignitaries of the Republic, you know?
And that's what I love too is like you get to see it wasn't just that he was afraid of losing Padme that made him turn to the dark side. It wasn't just that he was afraid to lose or that the Jedi Council was against him. It was that, Ahsoka Tano left him. And there's so
Yeah.
many other things like in the Clone Wars that happened to him over time that just kind of wore him down. And
Yeah, it made him really question his allegiance to the Jedi.
right. Exactly. You
Absolutely.
almost wonder if he had not been named the chosen one, if when Ahsoka left, if he would have left. Right? If the only thing keeping him there was the fact that maybe he's been called the chosen one, right? And he goes, I feel like I have to stay here because I'm the chosen one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So
that really is great. And I think that both George and Dave really did so well putting that whole story together. I know there's been a lot of people in the last couple of years that have been very vocal against that, but which is a little sad. But I think that they kind of told that story. They've added more nuance to
yes.
that arc in between episodes 2 and 3, and kind of
Yeah.
like tied it all together in the final season of the Clone Wars, which was epic. It was
Final season was so good.
yeah,
Chef's kiss on that one.
yeah, especially the last scene. That was just
Oh,
absolutely incredible.
yeah.
I,
To see that progression too, where it's like it has that montage of Anakin like going after Ahsoka in the sense of like, do it again, do it again, do it again, do it again. And then you see in one of the final scenes, like she's able to use that training to get out, and it's like, oh man, that is so beautiful.
Absolutely. I think that was great. So I'd say definitely the Clone Wars is there. I would have to put in like a little bit underneath or right next to it Mando season 1 and 2.
Okay. Fair enough.
I really loved both the seasons because I really thought it brought back that original trilogy
Yes.
thing mixed with a little bit of prequel vibes.
Yeah.
So that was cool. I really loved the mystery behind Mando and when he first met Baby Yoda, aka Grogu. I still
Yes.
call him Baby Yoda.
Everyone does, I think.
I do. I still love Grogu so much.
Yes.
And then of course I really enjoyed how they introduced some of the characters from the Clone Wars into live action, like Bo-Katan Kryze and obviously Ahsoka Tano. So that was like so fun.
Yes.
And also I really enjoyed learning more about Fennec Shand, who was the female bounty hunter. And then of course they brought back Boba Fett because like we knew that when we saw Tim Morrison, yes.
He's my favorite.
I met Tim Weta. I've met Daniel as well.
Man, I want to meet both of them.
Yeah, they're so great. Tim Weta is actually also a singer too, so he's very.
I heard that. That's crazy.
Yeah, and Daniel, he's so great with fans.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's been so lovely to me and to a lot of the people that I've seen. And then also, I also really loved Cara Dune. Cara Dune, I loved how she kicked butt.
Yeah.
Like she was not willing to take no BS from anybody.
Right.
And then
So
she did.
what was your reaction in Mando season 2 when Luke Skywalker shows up at the end?
Dude, I literally was a mess. I was sobbing because first of all, Luke came back
Yeah.
in his prime.
Yes.
And also I was very sad that Baby Yoda, Grogu, and Mando were being separated.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a very, very emotional feeling. Let me tell you, if they had just ended Mandalorian with just season 2, that would have been totally fine.
Same. I agree.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then we wouldn't have to deal with like all the rewrites of season 3. Obviously, the drama of Gina Carano getting fired. That was
Yep.
Yeah. I've actually met her, and she actually signed my drawing of Cara Dune.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
cool.
and I also took a picture with her too.
That's cool. I like Gina Carano. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I when Luke showed up and when that starfighter came into the view behind, I was down here. I'm like, no way. Right.
Yeah.
And like, I'm like, that's gotta be Luke. That has to be him. And then he
Yeah.
gets in there and you see the Jedi, and I'm like freaking out down here. And my wife comes down. She goes, "What is going on?" I'm like, "They put Luke Skywalker back in," like a little girl, It's so funny. I was giddy as a little schoolgirl, man.
Yeah. My mom kind of had a similar reaction when she's like, wait, who's that? And I'm like, Mom, don't you know who that is? And she's like, no, who? And she's like, who is it? She's like, is it Anakin? I was like, no. Is it Qui-Gon? No. Is it Ahsoka? And I said, no. And then she's like, then who is it? And then all of a sudden the shot comes on of his lightsaber and his glove.
With
And
the green
she's,
green
yeah,
blade. Yeah.
yeah. And she's like, oh my gosh, is that? And I said, yeah, it's Luke. And she's like, what?
It was so cool. Oh man. I think that's probably, and other than, because for me, you talk about favorite movies. My favorite movie is Empire Strikes Back. I grew up on
Yes.
the OT. I love the Empire. My third favorite is The Phantom Menace. It's the first movie I ever saw in theaters, ever,
Aw.
regardless of it being Star Wars. I was 5 years old.
Wow.
And so I remember that being the first movie I ever saw. And like, to see, like, other than seeing the prequels in theaters, I would say to me, like, that was like my most favorite Star Wars moment of like experience, right? Where it's like Luke is back. Like, this is so flippin' cool,
Yeah,
Um
that's
yeah.
awesome. That's
So
really, really cool. And then I think right next to or a little bit below Mando season 1 and 2 is the Ahsoka series,
okay.
because I really enjoyed the nostalgia feeling, and then also seeing the Clone Wars flashbacks in live action.
Yes.
That was incredible. And the fact that they were able to pull it off, and because I know that there were fans like asking for years, like, where we need to see Hayden Christensen in that Clone Wars armor, and they finally pulled it off.
What was your reaction when she gets to the World Between Worlds and you just hear, like him, Hayden Christensen behind her, like, "Hey, Snips."
I was like,
Like,
what? Is this real? I was like, are you kidding me?
oh man, that was really, really well done. And now, with the new Ahsoka season coming out, they have Ewan McGregor's coming back.
I heard that rumor. That they might bring back Ewan, but I'm like, how are they going to bring him back?
More flashbacks, I think. I think it's going to be more flashbacks. I saw an article that talked about maybe flashbacks of Clone Wars, a little bit of Satine in there too.
I agree, because you know what? This is one of the things I was very confused in Mando season 3, because I know that we had Bo-Katan talk a little bit about her upbringing.
Yeah.
I wish that she talked about Satine, because
Right.
Satine was her, spoiler alert, Satine is her sister.
Right.
So there had to have been some rift between her and Satine for her to go off and to follow more of the traditional Mandalorian roots, while Satine and the rest of their family took more of a pacifist route.
Right.
So I'm really
I
curious
agree.
about that.
And I hope they kind of follow, like, for the Ahsoka season 2. I hope they kind of follow the two storylines of like, well, the one storyline of more like an Heir to the Empire type deal. I hope they continue on, because I don't know if you've ever read the Heir to the Empire series.
I've heard of it. I heard great things. I actually once bumped into Timothy Zahn at Star Wars Celebration in Chicago in the concert,
Dang,
and I took a picture with him.
that's sweet.
Yeah,
Mark Thompson, who reads it, is phenomenal. You should listen to it on Audible. It's so good. Oh,
I love Mark Thompson. He's an amazing, amazing voice actor. He actually also did voices for Pokemon at 4Kids.
Yes.
And he also voiced Casey Jones in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I actually just did my first voiceover stuff for, do you know Jar Jar Jargon?
No.
So he's creating and has the first episode out, Star Wars anime based off of the Heir to the Empire series.
Wow.
I'll send you the link after we're done here.
Please do. Man, it's so interesting seeing all the fans create their own projects. And I think we need more of that.
100%. Yeah. The fans are like, Disney's not giving us what we want, so the fans are saying, hold my beer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
I know. No, I totally agree. I agree at most with a lot of the fans. And just like the way how, some people have responded to the criticism and just writing people off as like haters and calling them every insult under the sun. Like that is so unwarranted. And that's just not a good look for a company.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So kind of going into this then, I like to ask people if they feel comfortable answering is, what are your thoughts on the sequel trilogy and stuff in Disney and Star Wars now?
I was very excited when The Force Awakens was coming out. I loved the hype and all the buildup and all the mystery. I was excited when I got to see it in theaters because this was a Star Wars movie that I was actually seeing in the theaters ever.
Yeah.
So I was excited. I was very interested in knowing more about Rey and Finn and Poe Dameron and learning more about what happened between Princess Leia and Han Solo and what led to the rise of the First Order and who Supreme Leader Snoke was.
Yeah.
And everything leading up to that, because that was also the time when Star Wars Rebels was still happening.
Yes.
So I was excited. I got to meet everybody. I got to, I think, attend the season 4 panel for Rebels. With
sick.
all the cast members, and Dave Filoni was on stage, and that was when he announced that this was going to be their last season, and everybody was sad. And then it was so funny is that he quips, he's like, guys, I know what it's like not to finish a show. And I was like, ooh, snap. He was talking about when Disney idiotically canceled the Clone Wars after Disney bought it.
Yeah.
So I would say the buildup was fine. The buildup I really enjoyed. It wasn't until after The Last Jedi I felt something very off. And I didn't know what it was. I thought when I first heard that fans were getting very upset, I was like, oh God, is this another reaction to episode 2? Like, please no, because everybody in episode 2, didn't like it, blah, blah, blah. All that criticism.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't until I saw Solo, which I really enjoyed.
I love Solo.
Solo was so much fun. I loved getting to see how Han and Chewie met.
Right.
Emilia Clarke was great. I really enjoyed Woody Harrelson. Donald Glover, I think he was a pretty good younger version of Lando. But I will say, if something felt like, why did I have more fun with Solo than I did with The Last Jedi?
Yeah.
And then when I tried to watch The Last Jedi again for like the third time, I've just immediately turned it off like an hour and a half into the movie because I was just so depressed. Because I was like, wait a minute, I really did not like what they did with Luke Skywalker. I really did not like a lot of these side missions. And yeah, I love your shirt, by the way. I was just like, okay, so like Admiral Holdo is going to officially take over, but she's not going to tell any of the generals, including Poe Dameron, who is Princess Leia's top admiral or general or whatever.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? That's just not good writing and not good storytelling.
No, it's not. And that's the one thing for me, like, especially having been able to interview Roger Christian, right? The guy who invented the lightsaber. Like, for me. Huh?
I might have seen that where he was very upset about the fact that Luke threw the lightsaber.
Yeah, and that's what made me upset too. Like from the minute the movie started, right? Like the end of The Force Awakens was okay. Wasn't my favorite, but I was like, okay, I'll give him a chance to see where they go with this. There's some different directions they can go. And, at the end, they're staring at each other. And at the beginning of The Last Jedi, she's got the lightsaber, right? And she's holding it out to him. And like, to me, he grabs it and I'm like, okay, quick, like 10-second flashback, or at least the sounds of like maybe Anakin getting, his arms and legs cut off, and then maybe him screaming from getting his hand cut. Like there's some type of like, there's a lot of history and lore built into that lightsaber in Star Wars as a whole. And he sits there and chucks it over his shoulder. I'm like, you just took all of that history and lore that's built up in that and just disregarded it as if it were nothing. Like, I'm out. And from that beginning of that part of that movie, I was out. I was like, and then, like you said, the writing was so inconsistent. It was horrible. There was nothing like when you have two different directors, technically, it was like J.J. Abrams made Force Awakens. Rian Johnson made The Last Jedi. It was like a retcon of The Force Awakens. And then J.J. Abrams came back for The Rise of Skywalker, and it was like a retcon of the retcon. You know what I mean? And it was just like, you need someone. That's the problem with Disney. They don't let their directors cook. You let a director have their trilogy.
They didn't have a plan from the beginning.
That's what I'm saying.
And George Lucas literally had his treatments. Like, they weren't his scripts, because like this information keeps getting a little bit misconstrued, but it was his treatments and his ideas for what 7 through 9 would be.
Yes.
Kathy was like, no, we'll take good care of your characters. And then Bob Iger pushes George Lucas out, and basically, they don't even consult him on any of that for episodes 7 through 9.
Yeah.
And no wonder like people got so ticked off over what transpired in the sequel trilogy.
Yeah. 100%. And then, like you said, you got to let the directors cook. Let them come up with a plan. This is what our characters are. This is where we want them to be. Here's how we're going to get them there. Like, there was none of that. It was just like, like Ray, Daisy Ridley. I don't blame her for this at all. She had no idea who the character's last name was or who she belonged to. She had no idea until the last movie. Like, that's not okay. Like,
No, that was just so. I feel, oh my gosh, all those actors got really screwed over.
They did.
So bad. One of the only reasons I will be anyway interested in the Rey movie is if they bring back John Boyega and Oscar Isaac.
Same. For me, John Boyega as Finn, I thought at the beginning when they were kind of like, he's a defective stormtrooper who maybe has force abilities and he's got the lightsaber. I'm like, okay, that's a cool concept. I like that. Let's roll with that. And then it turns out, no, he's just Ray the entire movie. And I'm like, oh man, like, this is horrible. What are we doing?
I know. It was just like, I was just so upset. And now here we are, like almost two years later from when they announced the new movies, and there's still no script for the Rey movie. They're literally like on their 3rd or 4th writer. So I'm like, Lucasfilm, what the heck are you doing? So no wonder there's been so many rumors going around about Kathy's supposed retirement. And I think the only reason why she did that Deadline interview, I don't know if you saw that came out for her.
I'll make movies till I die. Yeah.
I think the only reason she did that was because there was like so much PR nightmare surrounding that I felt like I think that she had to come out and kind of like push back on those rumors. I will say she didn't deny that she was stepping down from Lucasfilm. So my guess is that they're going to announce it or have some teaser at Celebration Japan.
That would be sweet.
Yeah. I mean,
I would be down. I mean, for me, when you come out, Kathleen Kennedy, you talked about, right? Like George Lucas gave her like those treatments and stuff like that. And then you have all these EU books and you come out and say, we have no source material. What are you talking about? If you took one of these trilogies, Heir to the Empire, Bane, any of these, and use them, do you know? I mean, you could be printing your own money, man. I'd go see it like 8 times in theaters, like.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't grow up with the expanded universe. I was aware of what it was because I used to read all the Star Wars encyclopedias growing up. So I was very aware of who the characters were. I knew about Jason, Jaina, and Anakin Solo. I knew about Mara Jade. I knew about the Yuuzhan Vong. I knew about Kate Skywalker, who was like 1,000 years after Luke died.
Yep.
So I really was interested to see like where they took those stories, and when they, I wasn't upset when they announced that they're no longer canon. I was very interested in seeing if they're going to try to bring in new books and new stories. But hearing that there was a lot of inconsistency with some of the new books and some of the new material, I was like, that's pretty weird.
Yeah.
So that was disappointing. I actually, believe it or not, bought, I think a year and a half ago, Jonathan Jackson Miller's book of Obi-Wan Kenobi. So
okay.
I'm going to get started on that really soon. Because I
heard
that for the Obi-Wan show, they kind of wanted to adapt a little bit of what Jonathan Jackson Miller wrote. But then, they brought in a new writer and they're like, no, let's go in a completely different direction. So again, it's just that, like, they need to at least have some more consultation, I believe, with some of the previous Star Wars authors or some of the people that were involved in the original and prequel trilogy. I thought it was a massive mistake that they did not bring back Rick McCallum and Nick Gillard.
Nick Gillard, thank you. Finally, somebody else says it. Yes, Nick Gillard is such a genius when it comes to lightsaber choreography, man. And those lightsaber fights are just insane rather than, it's like, oh, okay, come on. Like,
yeah, I mean, look, I didn't mind at all the choreography in Ahsoka. I did have a bit of I was weirded out by some of the choreography in The Acolyte, though.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So I would say, okay, so we kind of teetered off a lot. So
we did. I'm sorry. That's what happens on this podcast is we kind of just start going on rabbit trails and who knows where it goes.
No, yeah, it's okay. Okay, so then Clone Wars, Mando season 1, Mando season 2, Ahsoka, and then I would say right there is the Obi-Wan Kenobi series.
Okay.
Because I was so happy when they brought back Ewan McGregor.
Yeah.
I was so happy that they brought back Hayden Christensen. Because, it had been years since they last graced the screen in Star Wars, in the Star Wars universe ever. And because I thought for a while, because since the Clone Wars was happening at the time, I didn't think that we were able to see Ewan and Hayden again because, Ewan had moved on to a bigger career. Hayden kind of like took a break from acting. He became a dad. So, I didn't think we would ever see it again. Fast forward many years later, they announced it at the D23. I don't think it was a D23. I think it was an investors presentation where Kathy literally announced all the shows and all the new movies that are coming out. And she announced that Obi-Wan Kenobi series is happening and that Hayden Christensen's coming back. So that's when I was like, yes, I'm so excited,
Yeah.
I was like, finally some good news.
Yes.
And then I know some friends that went to the premiere at Celebration Anaheim.
Okay.
Ashley Eckstein interviewed. They did the 20th anniversary panel of the Clone Wars, and they surprised everyone with Ewan and Hayden. And I was so happy that Ashley finally got to meet Hayden and Ewan McGregor. So that was cool. That was really cool. But no, I would say what I really liked a lot from the Obi-Wan show was the nostalgia. Again, it was seeing Ewan and Hayden together. I kind of wish that they had focused a little bit more on the story between Obi-Wan and Vader, and not like all the new side characters. You know what I mean?
I don't really. Yeah, we're not here for Reva. I'm sorry, we're just not. We're here for Anakin and Obi-Wan. That's the reality of it. Give us more Anakin and Obi-Wan.
Mm-hmm. I think if they ever do a season 2, I think they should do more of his time on Tatooine and him bonding more with Luke.
I will say this. I don't cry very often, but I got teary-eyed when he cut off that part of the mask.
Oh my God, me too.
And he's like, I'm sorry, Anakin, for all of it, and he's crying.
Yeah.
And, he's like, you didn't kill, like, I'm not your failure, Obi-Wan, like, oh man, that was so good. So well done. I will say, I wish we could have gotten, I know Star Wars 3 and, I don't know if you saw his interview with the gentleman who had actually started writing. Yep.
Yeah.
I wish we would have gotten that. That would have been so cool.
Yeah, but the thing is that, and people unfortunately still don't want to accept this, but the reason why we didn't get that was because Solo bombed in the theater and then Disney got scared and pulled all their projects.
Yeah. And that's the thing. The reason Solo bombed is not because it's a bad movie. Honestly, it's a fun movie. I like Solo a lot.
It was The Last Jedi.
It was The Last Jedi. It was the Fear of the Last Jedi. And let's be honest, they didn't really do a whole lot of advertising for Solo. Solo kind of came in under the radar.
Yeah.
I think I saw one commercial for it, and that was it.
I saw 2 or 3.
Did you? Yeah. I think I only saw one, and that was it. And then all of a sudden, I was like, it's in theaters, and I'm like, wait, what?
No,
there wasn't much.
I think it was the reaction to The Last Jedi. And then also the fact that some of the people that worked at Lucasfilm were literally going online and attacking fans who voiced their displeasure.
Yeah, that's not a good thing either.
No, it's not. Sorry, go ahead.
No, after you.
Okay, so this was something that some of the people on RF Rebel Force Radio were talking about. Disney and Lucasfilm need to enforce a social media policy of their employees.
Yeah.
Because when you are out there and you're literally attacking or mocking people who have legit concerns, like obviously there's going to be a bunch of people that are just a bunch of idiots spewing online hate,
For
but
sure.
then you have, actual legit fans who are critical and
Star Wars theory.
who want a better product.
Yeah.
You can't just go on and attack them and lump them all together. You need to have social media training for your employees and also
I
for
agree.
your creatives.
Yep.
You know, because
100%. I
it's
agree.
not a good look.
Yeah, I mean, even when okay, we talked about when Luke Skywalker returned in Mando season 2. There's that massive video that went out where Star Wars Theory is like literally crying,
Yeah.
and Pedro Pascal attacked him on Twitter.
No, it wasn't Pedro Pascal. It
Or
was
not
Patty
Pedro.
Hidalgo.
That's who it was. Thank you. Sorry, my bad. I misspoke.
That's okay.
But either way, a Disney employee attacking him. It's like what he's happy that this character returned. Like, why are you attacking him? Like this that's dumb. Like, what? Don't you want them to like what you're making? Like, that's what he's doing. He's enjoying what you're making. He's just happy that his childhood is back in a sense. Like,
Yeah.
so I'm
Yeah.
with you.
I was so annoyed by that whole situation.
Same.
It's like, again, here we are, literally 5 years later from that incident. It's like they still haven't learned their lesson.
No, they haven't. Nope.
No, they haven't. And I hope that if Kathy is by any means, if she is stepping down, I pray that whoever comes in, adheres to respecting the lore and the mythos that George created.
100%.
They hire competent writers and storytellers who understand the sandbox that they were put in to play in it and cook.
Yes.
And I also hope that this person clamps down on that toxic work and social media behavior of their employees and inputs the social media policy.
Yeah. And here's the deal too. I don't need today's social issues in Star Wars. That's why we go to Star Wars, is to escape what we have currently going on in our social economical climate stuff, right? Like, we go there to escape, not to watch a movie that's got the same things in it. Like, leave that at the door. Let's create characters and stories that are fun, that we not adhere to, but like,
We're so interested in.
yeah, exactly. Create storylines that make sense, that the plot lines make sense, that we can follow along. Like,
and also teach good lessons about
exactly,
life.
exactly.
Because that's what George initially created. He's like, yeah, you can say that Star Wars. He's like, oh, Star Wars was for kids.
Right.
Not saying legitimately for kids, but it was like the idea of teaching kids the importance about growing up and life lessons.
Right. Exactly.
You could argue that he was influenced by a lot of history and a lot of events at the time, because he did grow up in the time of the Vietnam War and everything.
Right.
But the way how he did it was such in a very timeless and mythical way.
Right. Yeah. It wasn't like specific issues. It was more of a generalistic picture of what things kind of look like at the time. Yeah.
Mhm.
And like you said, like, it teaches the value of like hard work. Like Luke Skywalker. I mean, it took a lot of hard work for him to get from where he was to where he ended up, the value of seeing the good in people, right?
Yeah.
You have a guy who's absolutely evil in Darth Vader, and Luke sees the good in him.
Yeah.
Like,
and also standing up for what is right.
Exactly. Yep. So life lessons like that just, they aren't in there. Like, or at least we don't see them, because we're so enamored by the fact that this story doesn't make sense. And there's so many contradictions in it that's all we focus on, is like, dude, this story doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. But anyway, those have been really interesting points that I think they need to do going forward to make good TV shows and hopefully get movies back into the theaters. So
I agree. Yeah, crazy. So are you going to Star Wars Celebration this year?
No, I don't. I can't. I'm kind of broke to go to Japan. Also, the tickets sold out, so I don't think I'm able to.
How about ICCC?
I think I might be busy during that time, unfortunately. I am going to a lot of cons here in the South Florida area, so.
Okay.
And also, I'm kind of dealing with a lot of stuff in my family. I won't say what it is, but
No, you're good. You don't have to.
Of course.
I just like to ask people. It's fun. There's a lot of like people that I've met that are going to ICCC, and I'm really like looking forward to like meeting these people. And so I was just seeing if maybe you'd be there.
That's okay. But thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate
absolutely.
it a lot.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's all I had pretty much. I just wanted to talk some Star Wars with you. Did you have anything else that you wanted to?
Oh, I wanted to say that Ahsoka Tano is my favorite character.
Yes, absolutely.
She is absolutely my favorite character because I love what she represents. Because kind of like with my experience as a young girl on the autism spectrum, I went through a lot of challenges. I went through a lot of obstacles in my life. But as I got older, I kind of like matured a little bit, and I think I saw something similar in the character of Ahsoka Tano, because so many times she got knocked down. She was like, she was like underestimated,
Yes,
but she was able to pull through, and she was able to achieve what she was able to achieve. And so I kind of relate a lot to the character of Ahsoka Tano.
that's cool. That's
Yeah.
cool. Hence, you got the sweet snip shirt, and you got the even your hats, Ahsoka Tano.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been a little sad because I'm seeing that she's been catching a lot of flack lately in Star Wars circles, because they feel like that do you think that she's being overused in the Star Wars universe, or no?
No, I think it's fine.
Yeah, I feel the same. I've been seeing like a lot of talks, like specifically from, I don't know how to describe this particular section of the fandom. The expanded people who are like super, super love the expanded universe.
Right.
Anything outside of that, or I think it was the 2D. I love the 2D Clone Wars by Gendy Taratovsky.
Yes, back in like was it 2002, 2003 when those came out? Yeah, those are great.
Yes, I love that too. But a
Yeah.
lot of people were really upset that that was also deemed non-canon because the Clone Wars took over.
Yeah.
So I think I've been seeing like a lot of more people being vocal about that, especially now since Dave Filoni has been moved up to a higher position at the company.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised that they're taking their ire out on him. But let me just remind people that everything has to go through the Disney committee. Everything is also run through Kathy and Bob Iger. I understand that Dave is now in a position to now have more creative control, but not everything falls on him.
Right.
I feel like while there's a lot of questioning over like what was he allowed to do with the acolyte, and I don't understand like why they kind of like changed the ending of Ahsoka, if I don't know, but I feel like there's a lot of unwarranted fan anger being thrown at him.
Yes.
I don't
agree.
know if you felt the same way.
Yeah, there's some people that are upset with him, and I'm kind of like, he's doing the best he can with what he's got. He's playing the cards he's being dealt, and he's trying to at the same time preserve George Lucas's version of things.
Yeah,
Because I know he and George still talk.
yeah, and also the other thing, people were saying that Dave kind of didn't like the idea that Ahsoka would get killed off, and people were saying that George Lucas initially wanted Ahsoka killed off. I'm like, where did you guys hear that? Like, I
Right.
could be wrong, and maybe there was discussion about her getting killed off and this and that.
Right.
But again, until we actually hear an actual conversation or George saying, yeah, I initially wanted Ahsoka to kill off, we can't just be going around and speculating and posting all this stuff on the internet.
For sure. 100%. Yeah, I agree. I was gonna ask too. Are you gonna watch Andor season 2?
Okay, this is another thing that's going to get me canceled. I'm going to be honest with you. I thought Andor was very well written, very well directed, very well shot, very well acted, but it did not feel like Star Wars to me.
Okay, fair
It
enough.
felt like it was a it was a space opera political thriller than like a space opera adventure. You
Yeah.
know, it to me, I didn't get that feeling of space fantasy adventure like I did with Mando season 1 and 2 and Skeleton Crew. I really enjoyed Skeleton Crew.
Skeleton Crew is fun. Yep.
It was so fun. It's so disappointing that because of what happened with the Acolyte, Skeleton Crew eventually paid the price for that.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, if anyone hasn't seen Skeleton Crew, please do. It's so
Yes.
worth it. Absolutely.
It's rarely refreshing to watch.
Absolutely.
I will say I am excited for Andor season 2 because one, I love the Rogue One movie. I think Rogue One is a great movie.
I do too. I love Rogue One.
But also like season 2 is going to be a lot quicker paced, and I think it's going to feel more like the adventure like you're talking about. So I don't know if you saw the format of how they're releasing it. They're releasing
Yes.
3 episodes each week, and they're just gonna drop that night all 3
Yes.
episodes. So
Perfect.
it's gonna be a lot
It's like
faster
movies.
paced.
They're like movies.
Yes. Yep. So I'm excited for that. I'm doing. I asked because I'm doing a live stream watch party with people, and I always like to bring on guests every once in a while and stuff. So
Okay.
um,
That's really cool. I hope that it goes well. I hope maybe I'm proven wrong about Andor season 2, but I just wish that some of the reviews that they put in the trailer, because obviously you saw the trailer that just came out.
yep.
I just wish that they had been a little bit more honest about their reviews. They're like, yes, it's critically acclaimed, but nobody watched the first season. Like,
Right.
are these people like literally lying to themselves? Like, come on.
100%. Yeah.
And fans can literally see right through your lies. Like, stop
Right.
kidding yourself.
Right. Exactly. You think we're all a bunch of dum-dums over here. We're not. Like, we see exactly what's going on. Come on now.
Yeah. I see through the lies of the Jedi.
Only a Sith deals in absolutes.
Yeah.
I will do what I must.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I hope Andor is well received, season 2, and
Same.
I'm more looking forward to the Mando and Grogu movie, and I'm also looking forward to Dave Filoni's movie.
Okay. Yep. And
Yeah.
Ahsoka season 2.
Absolutely. So
I
we'll
love
see
it.
where it goes, and if by God willing John Boyega comes back, I'll watch the Rey movie.
There you go. Heck yeah. Otherwise,
Yeah. Yeah. And that's another thing that people are like, how could you not like Rey? I'm like, listen, I love, people are like saying, oh, you hate female characters. I'm like, no, I love female characters. I just want them well written, and I don't think Rey was a well written female
no,
character.
she wasn't. No. Well-written female characters. Leia, Natalie Portman's Padme, you
Yeah.
know, like Ahsoka. Like,
Jyn
there's so many.
Erso,
Yep.
you
100%.
Cara Dune, Fennec Shand, you had Hera, Sabine, so many. Oh God, who else am I missing? There's got to be a couple, and also a couple in the expanded universe. Mon Mothma,
Mara Jade.
Yeah. We got a lot of great female characters. Oh, we got Luminara Unduli, Ayla Sakura, Shakti.
Yes.
Even though they had smaller roles, they still played a huge impact in the Star Wars universe.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any of your artwork near you that you'd be willing to show off?
I don't think so. I think I might have put it away somewhere. I don't think I have it on me. I'm sorry.
No,
But
that's all good.
if I do find it, I'll send it to you.
Heck yeah. I'd like to get that out there. That's cool. I'd love to see that half and half. I think that'd be sweet.
Absolutely.
Well,
Yeah.
I appreciate you joining me today. This is fun. So I enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much for inviting me on your show, and
Yes.
maybe one day I'll invite you on mine.
That would be awesome. I'd be honored. So
Yeah, I want to hear what you know about Pokemon and your time growing up in the Pokemania phase.
So I grew up in it, and I had a lot of friends that were in it. I personally was never necessarily the biggest Pokemon fan.
That's okay.
So I'm a Star Wars guy first, and then my second love is Batman. I'm a massive Batman junkie. So like the 90s animated series with Kevin Conroy. And,
oh my God, yes.
Yeah, so good. Yep.
Yeah, I knew about them because I watched Justice League when I was a little girl.
Yeah. See, you were raised right. I love this.
I watched a couple of episodes on Cartoon Network, but I was so confused by the stories, to be quite honest. It wasn't until like I got older and I started learning more about the concept of voice acting and dubbing that I started to learn more about the behind the scenes of making the animated shows. So that was really cool.
Yeah. So that's for me. Those are my two things: Batman, Star Wars, Batman, and then I do love Lord of the Rings as well. And then I do a lot of like Dungeons and Dragons with my friends. I do play a lot of Dungeons and Dragons and stuff like that. So
cool.
Yeah. So
that's awesome.
I love that for all nerds everywhere. There's something for you. You know, like.
Absolutely.
But either way, I'd still be honored to be on your podcast if you ever have me. So.
Absolutely. Well, again, thank you so much for inviting me on your show, and I really look forward to when this episode comes out.
Absolutely, and I'll send you the link for it. Guys, go check out Mariana on the Diamond Badge PML podcast. I'll put a link in the description to her Instagram page. Go check her out. Go chat her up about Pokemon if you're a big Pokemon fan. I'm sure she'll chat for days about Pokemon too. So I love it. So appreciate you guys. Thank you for watching, and may the force be with you always.
Another happy landing.
You were my brother, Anakin. I loved you.
He's no good